Hello everyone, Gaming Reviews here. Today's game is Axiom, an early access psychological adventure developed by Wales Interactive, the guys behind Monster Reboot. For those who enjoyed that game, should definitely stay around because the chances are very high that you would enjoy Axiom as well. But what does it actually has to offer? Do you actually need to spend any money on it? Let's find out. As an early access title, Axiom is currently available on Steam, but the problem is that many people have difficulties entrusting their wallets to these titles, which, considering the recent events of, the problems between early access, this is normal. But that's why I'm here. I can already tell you this. Axiom is definitely worth its purchase. But here's the twist. Although it has numerous problems that, yes, they are frustrating as hell. And yes, you do encounter some of these regularly in early access titles. In Axiom, none of those are really enough to push you back, because in the end, the story and the gameplay are so good that you want to keep going further to solve this, rather mysterious premise. And I believe that those are the two biggest essentials of a good game. But because maybe there are a few things that might actually set you back waiting for a full release, I have to elaborate on both the good and the bad things in this game.
Okay, so I guess that's that symbol over there. What does this? So it breaks a shield. Let's do. Do I just shoot it? No, that's not working. Okay, what? What? Okay, well, luckily I did spawn again.
One of the first positives of Axiom is actually its story. When you're first dropped into the game, you're basically told nothing. You have no idea what's going on, and the first few levels are there to introduce you into the lore of the game and what it is all about. Without spoiling anything, I can explain you this. You are a mysterious character which we have no idea of, whose soul is apparently uploaded to a server named Elysia. As such, the environments that you walk in are, virtual. Basically, you could consider it a cyberspace. In short, it has been developed by a number of characters that will be revealed as the story drives on. And that's pretty much it.
Strahd continues to humiliate me. I've endured her taunts for too long now. Insufferable bitch!
To help you understand and access the story in-game, they created what they call PMOs, little baby monkey dolls, for whatever reason, that you can pick up, which reveal information about the story. Text messages, emails, paper articles, and even real-life events are contained in them. It really helps to solve the puzzles and give meaning towards the story, which, in all honesty, is good enough to keep you going forward. It's already one of the big reasons why Axiom is really worth it.
This country has taken for granted the service of its people for too long. Soldiers and the common man have contributed vast amounts to the betterment of our society, sometimes even at the cost of their lives.
The main gameplay mechanics boil down to puzzles that you have to solve in order to proceed forward. Over time you will be collecting what they call powers that you need to solve the more complex puzzle. There are three main powers that can do the following. Enabling or disabling objects, which is blue. Moving or activating things like, objects or handles, triggers, which is the green power. And of course, destroying objects, which is the orange/yellow power. You also have a fourth power, which is reserved for what they call corrupt cubes. But I'm not gonna talk about that in this review. Now, first off, the levels are just great. They each contain a vast amount of levels that are time on time very unique. In fact, it contains some of the most original puzzles that I've seen in quite a while, and I think it should be commended for it. Yeah, this is not the type of puzzle, puzzle platformer where you are served the same solution or mechanic for a puzzle every 5 minutes. No. Every single puzzle is interesting and has its own importance. I would say that the greatest strength of them lies within how they combine these three powers. As you unlock more chapters, they become increasingly more difficult and definitely longer and longer, which is actually a good thing. Yes, you'll have to utilize your brains in order to advance, otherwise you'll just be guessing what the solution is. Speaking of guessing, you might be lucky once or twice, but if you're not actively seeking towards clues, you'll just be running off like a chicken without a head all the time. This game had me searching for answers and clues, which are always there to be found, hours and hours on end. And that was most of the time a fantastic experience, because it intensively urges you to go and find these symbols and combinations in order to unlock the puzzles, which open again new passages and story elements. As a result, I spent quite a lot of time in the game. I actually clocked just over 16 hours.
I got 16 hours.
But don't let it all get to your head, because despite these two great treats of the game, there are at least a few extra annoying things that at least account for 2 hours of those 16 hours.
No way.
Everyone knows bugs, and if you're buying and playing an early access game, you actually agree to the fact that you will encounter some, and yeah, some are more severe than others. But honestly, Axiom is really strong in that part. I've, except for some shader issues, which probably are related to my graphics card, and except for that I may have been stuck completely one time in the game, which is, which was more an oversight rather than a bug or a glitch. I had never any hard crashes, which, is really good considering early access titles, because many others just outright crash, sometimes even if you just open them. So it's not that you will be losing any progress at all. This brings me at my two major complaints about the game. First off, what happened to the collisions in this game? I'm not talking about getting stuck once or two times a lady, no. I'm talking about getting blocked, falling off edges, landing outside levels, and encountering countless of invisible walls all the time. The collision design, if I can name it that way, really hurts the game flow in Soul Axiom. I don't understand how the game calculates whenever you should be blocked or not. Huge objects are just non-solid, and other objects that are extremely small just completely block you for no apparent reason. That specific something wouldn't have been a problem if it didn't happen all that often. But I feel that this issue is tied to the movement in general. I mean, when I played, I felt like a tank, for Christ's sake. I mean, you feel so heavy that just standing on edges and just, you know, standing in general does not feel all that stable. Strafing, you know, it especially is very frustrating because it is so damn exaggerated that it goes either way too much to the left or way too much to the right. In short, it's very difficult to control. I also guarantee you that the jumping experience in this game will be downright terrible. It is actually so fast and so hard to calculate because you almost land in less than 1 second on the other side, that doing speedruns and leaps is just a nightmare. But perhaps the most annoying thing about all the movement is that you cannot select any or switch between any of your powers as you are running, because you can either walk or run. Even if this was done intentionally, so you cannot basically use your spells while you are running, it is still very frustrating because you have to stop, then you have to select your power and then you can run, and if you want to use them again you have to either stop or wall and then you can use them, which is outrageously frustrating. Speaking about the powers, that is my second concern. The powers on their own are actually fantastic, and they provide the developers with endless possibilities for creating very innovative puzzles, which is very smart design on their part. But why did they decide it was a good idea to make them so slow? Because they are
slow as molasses.
Really, when you have utilized one of your powers, no matter which one of the three, because it happens with all three, which usually takes a second and a half, if you want to reuse them again, you have to wait until it's all the way back to its initial state, and only then you can fire. But even then, I swear, if you press on the right moment, it will just not do nothing. So you actually have to wait, like, let's say 1/4 of a second before you can reuse them again. It makes for a very slow experience. In general, it just sucks up a lot of time. Don't do this. Honestly, these are the really two main concerns. And it's impossible not to recommend the game just because of these things. Finally, about the graphics and the sound design. The graphics are really well done, especially the refractions and the reflections are well mastered and highly present in the game, much like its strong design. But a little bit more effort in making some of the models a little bit more less blocky or with more polygons would actually help. The same can be said from the sounds. The sound quality is really good, but the sound design is strange. It's very strange. There are many sounds lacking, in particular the third power, which you want to destroy, is constantly missing its explosion sounds. And very often you will encounter sounds that are all of a sudden extremely loud and others considerably, silent. However, I do have to give a lot of credit towards the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really good. And what I especially like about it is that most of the levels have their own unique soundtrack, which makes each level even more unique than it already was. I could go on, like, you know, there are quite a lot of dark areas in the game, like really many, and it's sometimes it's just a little bit too much. And what also happens often is that it seems like there are dead corridors that are worth discovering, but in the end there's just nothing to see, which is pretty boring. But none of those are really worth mentioning in detail, because they are not as dominating as the two previous main concerns that I brought up. So in short, Soul Axiom is absolutely worth it, and that's why I give it my recommended trophy, and why I urge you to support Wes Interactive, because they are taking early access seriously. It has a story that is worth finding out, and combined with great gameplay elements that offer unique and very interactive levels, coupled with, you know, a not too shabby design that will make you feel at ease most of the time. That is, if you are not utterly frustrated by the poor flow design and the god-awful controls. Although what is the best of it all is that you cannot simply rush through the levels. It's not easy, and you really need to use all your intelligence in order to proceed forward towards the story, which gives this game a deep learning curve. But hey, if you're really stuck, you can always consult the forums. For a $20 price tag, you essentially get 14 hours of excellent gameplay, and that counts for something. This was Gaming Reviews, and I will see you in the next review.